So my name is Stuart Sutton, and I am the President and CEO of Circle TMS. And today we're going to talk about dispatching, order entry and dispatch. So I'm going to spend most of the time today on order entry and dispatch. To kind of give you a high-level overview of how this works, I'm going to work first in the customer profile. And the customer could be a bill-to customer or it could be a location. And I'm going to show you how we store a bunch of information in the customer. Then when we take an order, how some of that information drops into the order very quickly to make it easy for you to take an order and build that order. Once the order is built, then dispatch it. And we're going to dispatch this on one of your own trucks or my truck, and then use the mobile app to kind of show you how the driver can do all the events to execute that order. And as the driver is doing things, that information will flow automatically back to your customer as either an automatic email or a text message on their phone. So that's kind of a high-level overview of what we're going to be talking about for the next 45 minutes. So I'm going to jump into our system, and I know I have some people that haven't been on our system, so I'm going to give you a quick little talk about the navigation. At the top, you're going to have main functions. Everything about your orders, dispatching is in the Orders tab. Everything about your customers is in the CRM tab. Everything about your trucks, drivers, and trailers and outside carriers is in the Assets tab. Invoicing and settlements is kind of obvious. All the reporting is in the reportings. Network is where you do everything with sharing loads and trucks with everybody else in the network. Rates is setting up your rate tables, and system is to the administration. So the main tabs, and we're going to be working today predominantly in the Customer tab and the Orders tab, and that's where most dispatchers will work. In fact, dispatchers will spend the majority of their time in the Orders tab. There's then, once you're into a tab, there'll be menus on the left side. You can minimize the menus by using this little chevron on the left, and it gives you more real estate. So once you get to understand what the menus are, you're just going to look at the particular icons and know which way to go. When you go into a grid, what you'll see, for example, if I go to the Vehicles grid, is that it looks like a spreadsheet. So it looks like an Excel spreadsheet, and you have the flexibility to move data around any way you want. And the system will remember how you set up your spreadsheet. You can also sort the data by just clicking on the title, and it will sort it first in ascending and then in descending order. You can also add and remove data from the grid. So by going to the Actions Blue drop-down, and you can actually pick and choose pieces of data that can go on the grid. And as you can see, there's hundreds of different pieces of data that you can get on the grid. And once you've got information on the grid, you can then export it to Excel and do things within Excel. So if you need to write some reports, so for example, I need to pull information about my driver or my trucks, it's very easy to pull the data, get it onto the grid, and then export it into Excel. Likewise, with every grid, you'll have the ability to filter based on a column. So for example, if I want to find all the drivers who have the letter R in their name, and I filter that, it'll just grab all the drivers that have the letter R in their name. And then I can just clear that filter and clear that out. So you have the ability to filter every column, and it'll grab a subset of the grid. A lot of grids will also have gear functions. This makes it easy for you to do something without having to drill in to the actual profile or order to do something. And you're going to see me use the gear functions a lot. So that's a quick navigation. A very important tab is the Documentation tab. Here you will find all the training videos that we've made. They're all available. Most of the videos are 5-minute videos. The video that I did yesterday, how to build your own load board, that was the webinar I did yesterday. That's about 45 minutes long. So when we do these webinars like today, they will appear in the video training, and you can go in and watch the long videos or the short videos. So there's a lot of videos. There's also written documentation. And so when I go into the documentation, it's kind of put into folders for anything about Circle Mobiles here, everything about orders, everything about customers and assets. So you can go and drill in and write and print these documents off of how to use functions. So there is a lot of documentation in the system. We welcome everybody to go in and browse all the documents and watch the videos to help learn the system. It is a very big system. So I'm going to spend some time now on the customer. So a customer to us is any place you bill or any place you pick up or deliver. That's to us as a customer. because we never know when you pick up and deliver this sometime in the future, it may become a bill to. Now, adding a new customer is pretty straightforward, and we've actually done something with Google, so you can actually start typing a customer name that does not exist in your database, and it'll get an address for you. So let's say I wanted to find the Atlanta Hospital. And as I'm typing Atlanta Hospital, it says, is that the Piedmont Atlanta Hospital? And if it is, I just have to click on that. I could also put Georgia, for example, GA, and it would narrow it down for Georgia. So what we're doing here is we're using Google for helping us to find an address. So as you start typing an address and you stop typing, the system will go and say, well, let's search Google to see if Google can find that for us. If it does find it, all you have to do is click on that address, and it's going to bring all the address data down into this address area. And it doesn't show the phone number, but also when I save it, it will save the phone number. So I've got Piedmont Atlanta Hospital here, and that's all I had to do is start typing it. Now I've got the name, address, city, state, zip, and I'm going to say this is a bill to, and it's approved bill to. And I'm just going to go and save this record. And what the system will do is it'll create a customer record for me now, and it's going to give it a code of PI-BUC. It takes the first 3 letters of the company name, in this case Piedmont, and the first 3 letters of the city, Buckhead, which must be a sub of Atlanta, and that's how it's got the name. Now, if there's already a PIBUC in there, it'll create a PIBUC1, a PIBUC2, etc. That code I can change to anything I want. I'm going to drill back into the customer record because now that I've got it, I can add all sorts of stuff to this customer record. So we're going to work with adding and building on a customer record. So you can see I've got the address, and right here, very important, it says it's validated. We have a lat long. By using Google, we get not only the address, but the lat long. The lat long means that we will manage your time zone. It tells me that this is an Eastern Standard Time, and whenever we show dates and times in the system, we show them in your time zone and the time zone of the pickup or drop. So we'll manage that for you. You don't have to worry about time zone. As long as we get a validated address, we'll get a lat long. We've got the phone number. We've got a code, and I could change that to whatever I want, but the system's going to give you that code, PIBUC. All right, I've defined it as a bill to. This company may have working hours, so I've got some presets, and I'll say they work from 7 to 7. That's their hours of operations for, perhaps that's their loading dock operation hours, is 7 to 7. So you can store their hours of operations, completely optional. I've got my billing related data down here. There's some other general information, but from a dispatcher's point of view, the most important thing is, where are you? What's your phone number? Perhaps hours of operations. Once I've got that, I want to know who works there that I need to know about. So I can go into the contacts and I can start adding new contacts. So I'll add my name, and I'll put my name in here, and it's got my email address. I can put a title in if I want. I'm also going to put my cell phone number in here. Of course, if I knew it. And I got my cell phone, so I got the email address, I've got my cell phone. I could put a title in, I could put a type in a language, that's up to me. I could also identify the hours of operation this person works, so maybe that they work 8 to 5. I could save that, it's an option. I have the option to say, do I want to email my truck availability to this person? So if I wanted to let them know where my trucks are available, I would make yes, and it would add that email address anytime I send out my truck availability list. If this is a person that pays my invoices, I would say, do I want them to get an email invoice? And if I say yes, later on in invoicing, when I say email a batch of invoices, this person would get all the invoices from that batch that belongs to them. If I say has access to online track and trace and make that a yes, that means they will get an email inviting them to track and trace. In that email will be videos of how to use track and trace. And then anytime we do orders for them, they can go online and they can see the orders. And if they are the bill to, they can also see the invoices and the paperwork attached to those invoices online. So I'm going to save this contact. Oh, I've got an extension that's too big, so I better copy an extension in there. So I just have to delete that extension, and now I save it. So I've got a contact in there, and I can add unlimited number of contacts. What I'm going to do with the contact now is I want to go into the contact and set up alerts. So the alerts are, how does the customer contact want to get notified of significant events of the trip? So I'm going to copy from my template that this person wants to get an automatic email if they happen to be the shipper, the consignee, the bill to, logistics company, or authorization company on the load. If their customer code is one of those on the load, I'm going to send them an automatic email when I arrive at the pickup, when I load, when I arrive at the delivery, and when I empty. And I have other options of things I could send them automatic emails. For example, dispatching the order, check calls. I'll add check calls here. And then on the right side, how many minutes before I warn them about detention. So this says if I've arrived and haven't picked up, in 60 minutes, I'm going to send them an email to warn them of a potential detention at pickup. And likewise at delivery. So they will get an automatic email, and that will be copied to me as well, so I have a record that I warned them that I may have to charge some detention. And then how many minutes between check calls? So my default in my template is 60 minutes. Those are the most important things for this, and I'm going to save that alert. So I've created an alert now for this contact to get automatic emails. Well, I also have their cell phone, so I'm going to go and I'm going to set up, they get the same thing as a text message on their cell phone. So when I do this, I'm going to use this customer record later on in an order. This person, who's me, will get an email and a text message about the events that I've tagged. So I've set up a contact, and again, I can have multiple contacts. Each contact can have multiple alerts. In this case, I've got 2 alerts for the contacts, one for email, one for text message. The other thing that's important for dispatch are special instructions. And these are things the customer has told you to make sure you do when you go into their facility. So when you add a special instruction, it says, this special instruction, what does it belong to? Well, if this customer, Piedmont Atlanta Hospital, is a pickup or delivery, I want to make sure the driver has PPE, personal protection equipment, especially goggles and face mask. And I want to share this with the driver, and if I broker it out, I want to share it with outside carriers, and I want to put it on my bill of lading doc too, so that in case I print the bill of lading and give it to somebody outside, they'll know that the driver has to have that. I don't want to show it on the invoice. I could make it a billing note, but I'm not. And customer rate doesn't apply in this scenario. So I'm going to save this record. What it's going to do is save it permanently with the customer file. Now what's going to happen is when I create an order later on, it's going to say if this is a pickup or delivery, I'm going to copy this into the order. We call this the forget me factor. If a customer tells you that you must do something, you put it in the customer record and you never have to worry about forgetting it again. So let's say I've got another special instruction, and this is a bill to, and I must have a PO to invoice the customer. And I'm going to make this a billing note. So anytime I go into billing, it'll have that note in front of me in red to remember to get the PO number so I can invoice the customer. Again, that will be copied into the order, so the dispatcher will see, or whoever's creating the order, that we have a PO number from the customer. And I'm going to save that. I can save unlimited number of notes, and I can tag how that is to be applied in the order and who has to get notified about it. For example, in that must have PO number, I said it must be a billing note, but I may want to put it on that bill of lading document as well. So I've got different things I can do with special instructions. From a dispatch point of view, and I'm going to focus on that today, I need to know the name and address of the company, perhaps the phone number, hours of operation, are they a bill to, yes or no, who works there, how do they want to be notified, any special instructions that we need to make sure that are copied into an order or shared with anyone else in the operations. I'm not going to go into the sales directions, customers, brokers, etc. Yeah, the only other thing I may talk about is notes. You can keep unlimited number of notes about a customer, and when you create a note, blah, 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 you can associate it to a particular contact, but then you can get reminded about that note in the future by an email. So, for example, you may have a salesperson that calls on a customer, and that customer says, hey, I have nothing for you this week. Call me back next month. I think we're doing a big job. Maybe I'll be able to have work for you then. You create a note, You then put a follow-up date, and you will get an email about that. The other thing I've seen this used for a lot is accounts receivable collections, where you want to you're calling the customer on old money, accounts receivable, and you keep track of all the people you talked to and what was promised. So I'm not going to go into anything else about the customer. Now, this particular customer I did set up to have track and trace. So when you set a customer up to have track and trace, you can actually sign in as them and help them navigate the track and trace. So all you have to do is find that customer so if I want to find it contains Atlanta. Oh, I must have used the wrong one. That's the customer number, and that customer number had pi in it, I think. Oh, well. Anyways, you can find a customer here and then click on this little blue box, and it'll open up track and trace, and you'll be signed in as if you were mimicking their track and trace sign-in, and you can help them walk through how to use track and trace. So when it comes to customers, that's how you create a new customer and add all the data in. Now, if you have existing customers, one thing I wanted to talk about is we store the address for you, and it could be validated or not validated. If you have an address that's a P.O. box, you're not going to be able to validate that address. But you could have maybe have an address that somebody didn't get validated through PCMailer or Google. And that's how we validate the address, either PCMailer or Google. So, for example, this company is in Wisconsin, 1250 Glory Road, Wisconsin. So if I click on this company that has defined as off-grid, that means that I haven't got a valid lat long, and the lat long that I'm going to use is going to be city center. So this happens to be the city center of Green Bay. Now, later on when we get into dispatching, when I dispatch an order out to a driver, if I've got a valid lat long, I'm going to give him that lat long that will show up on his phone and a map. But if I don't have a valid and off-grid, I'm just going to tell them, hey, you'll have to look up this address yourself. Now, this address is probably a valid address. If I click on the address, by default, up here, I've got this off-grid drop down. I can have off-grid, advanced search, or quick search. If I click advanced search, it couldn't find that address in Green Bay. If I click search Google, it found an address. And when I click on that address once, it shows a building. And chances are that's the address. If I click search PCMailer, the lat long might be a little bit different. So watch what happens with this blue dot. When I click on the PCMailer address, it moved it from the middle of the building down to the corner. So PCMailer and Google will typically have different lat longs. Now, if I store that as off-grid, I can take that little blue dot and I can move it around, and the system will store the lat long. So if I actually know where the building is, or let's say the address was out in a farmer's field and you're delivering to an oil wellhead or something, or a construction site. Let's say that this is a construction site. That's really where the address is. You can drag that dot and store it as off-grid if you know where the address is. So I'm actually going to go back to using something that's an advanced search, and I'm going to search Google, and I typically use Google or PCMailer. If I double-click on it, it saves that address, and now I see the address is validated. From a dispatcher point of view, all you dispatchers out there, you should always try to get a valid address because we will help the driver route to that particular lat long. Now, as you know, that if you've been to some of these big plants, the lat long you get might be pointing to where the employee's parking lot is, and the truck entrance might be a mile and a half around the corner. So you just have to be careful of the lat long that you store for your individual customers. So I'm not going to talk any more about customers. I've got that pretty well all in place, and now I'm going to go into orders. And we're going to talk a little bit about creating an order. So I'm going to create a new order. I'm going to spend actually quite a bit of time on creating an order and talking about all the different things about an order. So what I'm going to do is look for Atlanta, Piedmont. Maybe I misspelled it. Was it Piedmont? Piedmont Atlanta Hospital. And so I've got my customer. That's an approved bill to, so I know that's a bill to as well. And the customer's given me a reference number for their order, which is optional. For those of you who have trucking divisions and logistics divisions, you can actually choose which business unit that order belongs to. and I'm going to create and add stops. So I've got the order, and now I'm going to do the pickup and drops. So let's say the pickup is at Piedmont. I'm picking up at the hospital. And when I do that, it's going to go to the customer database, grab their address, plus the validated check flag. And there's a little icon. I can actually go click on Google and look at where the map of the location. There's the hours of operation that were in the order, or in the customer record. And all the special instructions for the pickup and drop were copied into the order for me down here. Driver's got to have PPE. And I see that I'm going to share that with the carrier and share it with the driver. So I've got that information. So just by getting Piedmont and typing a couple letters, I've got address, I've got hours of operation, I've got special instructions. And I'm going to say, when is my pickup? Now, there's this little date box you can click on to pick a date and pick a time, but there's shortcuts. So when you're in a hurry, what you want to do is learn the shortcuts. So the shortcuts are all documented. When I click on this little I, it opens up a window that shows me all the different shortcuts for putting in a date and time. So an example, today is Wednesday. If the pickup is Friday, I could type in the letter F for Friday, and let's say Friday at 1800, F blank 18 gives me Friday at 1800. Okay? So if it's tomorrow, the letter X is tomorrow. And if I just tab out of the field, it's going to take tomorrow at the next even hour, which is 1600 Eastern, because right now it's 1522. Get to be familiar with the shortcuts. If I put X1, that's like tomorrow plus 1 day, which is Friday. And I could go X for tomorrow, and I could go 19, and that would be tomorrow at 7 p.m. The shortcuts are M for Monday. So Monday would be the next Monday, which would be next week. M6 would be Monday at 6 a.m. Now, whenever I put a date and time in, it's going to compare that date and time to the hours of operation if I've stored that with a customer record, and warn me if I'm going to be outside the hours of operation. I can also create a window time. So I could, using this little chevron down here, I can expand the pickup location and put in an earliest and latest time. So let's say I'll just pick the schedule plus 1 hour and minus 1 hour and plus 1 hour, so from 5 to 7 is my window. And I can also identify a contact. Who's the contact I need to talk to there? So I've got all of that information. I'll just minimize that a bit so I can get more space. So I've got my pickup, and I've got my date and time. Now I go to my delivery, and let's say that I'm delivering to New York Hilton. So I've got some, let's say I've got some masks. Well, what that's going to do, once I've picked my delivery location, it's got the name, address, city, state, zip. I see it's validated. It's got hours of operation. It runs my distance, 892 miles. Tells me that there's $118.10 worth of tolls on that route. And it gives me my ETA as a single and a team driver using a cargo van, which is my default truck class. Now, let's say I'm using a semi at 45 miles an hour. When I do that, it's going to automatically recalculate these ETAs. So when I change that to 45 miles an hour, it automatically calculates the ETA as a single and a team driver. And it calculates this based on the rules that you set for how long a driver must drive before they can go down for sleep and how long they have to go down for sleep. So it's completely configurable by you by truck class. So, for example, your cargo vans and sprinters, maybe you could let them run for 20 hours. But your semis and large trucks that are under HOS rules would probably have to run 11 hours and 8 hours sleep. So it's completely configurable by you how you want to set that up. Now what I would do is then pick which date and time I want to use, the single or the team. And just like when I do the pickup, if I don't like any of that time, I could say, well, it's not the 31st. I'm going to use a shortcut that's April 1st, 4-1 at 5 a.m. So that's another shortcut. Just put in 4-1, that's April 1st at 5 a.m. Now let's say that, oh, that should have been 5:15 or 5:30. These little up and down arrows move that date and time up and down by 15 minutes at a time. So it's a quick way to put in 5 and then just jump up to 5:15 or 5:30. So I've got a pickup and I've got a delivery date and time. And I could as well put window times in here as well. I'm not going to bother for the delivery. And then what am I picking up? Pieces and weight. So let's say I got 5 pieces. It's 500 pounds. My DIMs, whatever they may be, put them in. Is it stackable, yes or no? Commodity, So this could be pharmaceuticals, and I might say it's face masks. So maybe I'm picking up face masks from this hospital, taking it to that hotel, which is going to become a temporary hospital, and I could put a bill rating number if I want. All of this is optional. You don't have to do any of this. I could put a freight value and dim weight, etc. At the bottom, I've got my stop notes, and by the way, there was a stop note on the delivery point as well that came in. That's also going to be shared with the carrier and shared with the driver. I could also add notes on the fly here. So if a customer tells me something I need to know, I could add a note as I'm building the order. So I've got my pickup and delivery. Now, if I were to go through and do this in my normal speed, I would have done that in a matter of 15, 20 seconds. Pickup, date and time, delivery. It's going to tell me, give me optional date and times. I'm going to select something, put pieces, weight, dims in, boom, I'm done that part, and I'm back into my base part of the order as soon as this saves. I have to apologize, by the way, when I share my screen like this, it does slow down. Now, I forgot to mention in the tolls, by the way, in the prior screen, here's the tolls over here, 118. I could have clicked on that toll number and would have told me the tolls I would experience on that route. So I got the New Jersey Turnpike and the George Washington Bridge. So I've got the tolls. Now, what am I going to charge my customer? Well, I'm going to charge them, say, $2 a mile, and just use that rate and save that. Now, I'm going to save that rate before I send the rate confirmation out. So I've got my rate in there, $1,872. And the other thing I want to do is there any special order attributes that I need to know about? Well, this has got to be a dock high. I do need team. I need a lift gate. I need to have 6 straps. And this is white glove service. The doors have to be swing doors. I don't need a heater. PPE, driver's got to have face mask and goggles because that was in the request. And I can pick all these things that I need for the order to have as order attributes. And when I mouse over, now that it's saved, when I mouse over it, it's going to show me I got a bunch of order attributes, and I can drill into the order attributes and see them as well. So I've got these order attributes done. And what I can do now is I can send my customer a rate confirmation to ask them to please sign the rate confirmation. And so it'll find all the customer names in the database and give me that list. And I'll say, please sign. And I want to get a copy myself as well. So I'm going to send my customer a rate confirmation asking them to approve this rate before I move the truck. And what's going to happen is I'm going to get an email. And my email just came in. And I'll bring the email over so you can see it. So here's the email the customer got. And attached to that email is the rate con. So if I look at the rate con for the customer, there's a rate con. It would have your logo, would have the bill to, the ship via. Here's all the special attributes that were asked for, face mask and goggles, straps. I asked them to please sign it. There's the pickup. Make sure driver has PPE, special instruction. There's the rate. Now, what the traditional way of doing this rate confirmation is your customer would print it, sign it, scan it, and either email or fax it back to you. But there's a faster way. All they have to do is click this link, and it's going to open up a screen where they can type their name, and I'll put Daffy Duck, and then Daffy's going to sign their name and a comment, don't be late, and approve. What's going to happen, it's going to take that signature, name, superimpose it on the rate con. It's going to send a copy back to the customer who signed it, so they'll have a copy of the signed document. In fact, I just received it. Here's my email with a signed agreement. And if I look at the email, if I look at the signed agreement, there's all the rate con, and at the bottom of the screen, Daffy Duck and the Daffy Duck signature. So the customer's got that, but not only that, if I go back and look at the order and I view the documents associated with the order, there's the document. So the customer has signed it. They didn't get their butt out of the chair. They signed it, submitted it back to you. You didn't have to get your butt out of the chair to get it, index it back into the order. It's already in the order. You can open it up. You can look at the document from here. So there's the document. We looked at this already. That's been signed. So at the very bottom, there will be the signature with Daffy Duck. And all I have to do is say show with invoice. And this document type customer agreement is now going to be tagged as on the invoice. It's tagged as show with invoice. So the next time I do an invoice for this customer, that document's automatically attached. If that customer is using track and trace and is tracking and they look at the invoice online, if they can see the invoice because there's a bill to, they will see that document attached. It's there. Don't have to do anything with it going forward. And in fact, if I wanted to email that document from here, I could email that document directly from here to any of my contacts, my customers, so that I could email that to anybody that I've got a rate con. So the rate con is automated, and that's the customer rate con. Later on, if we have time, we can do the exact same thing with the when I do a rate con, when I broker the load out to somebody outside the company, outside of my company. So let's talk about a few other things here about what they can do. We've got the customer alerts. If I look at the customer alerts, these are the alerts that are set up for the customer to get about this particular load. So I can see that the Stuart Sutton guy is going to get both a text message and an automatic email because they belong to Piedmont. There's the same guy, different Stu Sutton, belongs to the New York company record, will get an automatic email, but only when the freight's been delivered. So these are all the events that they're going to get the emails for or the text messages for. Now, what I could also do, let's say this is I have a person that says, oh, let this one person know about this particular order. I can create what's called custom order alerts that are one-offs. So I click the plus new, and I can go send an automatic email. I can put the person's email address in here, or if I have their phone number, I could do a text, and I can put their text phone number in there. And what I can do is pick and choose what they're supposed to get, and they then check call intervals, pick up the attention time, etc. And I can save that, a one-off. As a dispatcher, those of you dispatchers, you may have an order that you want to really track closely because it's so important, but you're going home and you want to get notified in the evening. What you can do is say, if you say click my cell, it's going to go to your user profile, pull your cell number in there and make that a text. If you say my email, it's going to go to your user profile, grab your email, stick it in there, and then you just pick the events you want to get notified about and save it. So as dispatchers, remember, this is a way that you have a really hot load. You want to get notified about certain things of that load. Here's a way that you can set it up on a load-by-load basis, even if you have a customer. I know there's no trade show activity going on right now, but this is a very useful tool when you're doing trade show. Who's the person that's at the trade show that needs to get to receive this information, to know when it's arriving, to know when it's emptied? I guess with the activity that's going on right now with COVID, it could be the same thing about shipping important medical supplies. Hey, I'm taking this to the hospital. It's got to get to this location in the hospital. So that was creating custom order alerts. So you can see all the alerts that are set up that are based out of the customer that are permanent, and the custom order alerts are the one-off stuff that you would do for a particular order. You can look at your bill latings. There's the rate confirmation we already sent. I can upload documents at any time. When you upload a document, by the way, if you have something that's been emailed to you, you can drag that email document right onto where it says select files and you drop it. You don't have to go search for it in your filing system. It's a very simple thing, just drag and drop something right on that where it says select files. I have a lot of customers now where they'll have email chains of stuff with their customer, and they'll take that email and they'll save it as a document and then upload it into the order itself. The whole idea here is to put every document that belongs in the order and attach it to the order so that going forward, you have all that information at your fingertips. You don't have to be rifling through emails or papers on your desk or whatever. Keep it with the order. And that's, I could do a truck search from here. I'm going to go back and do some work with this a little later on with some other things. Toggle map. This gives you the visual of what the route will look like, and this is using PC Miler, and it's just a toggle. I can toggle it on, toggle it off just by clicking on that button. So I can see that I'm picking up down here in Georgia, taking it up to New York, and it gives me a visual of where that map will be, where that row will be. The last icon on the bottom left of that map is turn-by-turn directions. So I click on that. That'll give me the PC Miler turn-by-turn directions for that particular route. So that's available. Everything's interfaced to PC Miler. I can set this order as different things: available, a quote, lost opportunity, will call, template, canceled, vehicle order not used. Now I want to talk about a few things that are different between Full Circle and my prior company, Selectus. In the past, you'd have to do every pickup was a delivery, every delivery was a pickup. In our system, that's not the case. So let's say that I've got a second pickup, let me see, in Roanoke, Virginia. So what I can do with this delivery is I click on the gear beside delivery, and I say add a pickup that's going to go to this same delivery location. And I apologize again, my screen gets a little slow when I share it. And I'm going to say I'm picking up at a city center, and I'm going to go from I'm going to pick up at Roanoke. I thought it was Roanoke, Virginia. Okay, we'll go Roanoke, Ohio, because I don't know how to spell all the other things. And I got a tolls, and it's going to give me my ETAs. So I'm just going to accept an ETA. And pieces of weight, let's say I'm picking up one piece, 1 pound, maybe it's an envelope. And I don't know the customer yet, so it lets me just save a location of a city center, and I can go back later and put in the actual location, the name and address, city, state, zip. So I'll just save that for now, and I'll just see how far out of road I'm going to go now because I've chosen that location once I've saved it. So if I look at my map, I'll see I'm probably going way out of route to do this other pickup. Yeah, not too bad. I got to go up east of Pittsburgh, or west of Pittsburgh to get it. So now I've added my additional stop. So as you can see, I don't have to have that pickup for every drop and a drop for every pickup. And I've got a time that's out of whack here. Now that's because I'm using a single driver. If I happen to change this to be a team driver, it's going to recalculate the ETA and tell me that I'm going to be on time. So this is the calculated ETA, and this is the scheduled date and time. If I take that off, the scheduled date and time says, hey, you're going to be late. How do we calculate that? If you click on any one of these dates and times, it's going to open up a window that says, here's how we calculate your speeds and ETAs. We're using a semi-truck, which is running at 45 miles an hour on average. Every time we stop, for the first stop, we're going to add an hour to buffer to get off the road, go load up, and get back on the road. Every additional stop, we're going to add another hour buffer to get off the road, go load, or deliver, and get back on the road. And if you cross the border, we're going to add an hour. If I have to go down for sleep, I can run for 11 hours, and then I have to sleep for 8 hours. So we build that all in, and then we give you two grids that says, here's how we've calculated. The only difference between the top grid and the bottom grid is the sleep time. This is without sleep, this is with sleep. So it'll give you ETAs, and the schedule, it'll show you the scheduled date and time and the calculated ETA, and it will identify if it's going to be late in red. Now, if I want to leave this as a single driver, there's a very quick way for me to fix this. Say, let's just take that ETA and copy that into our actual delivery date and time. And that's just a quick way of fixing it. I could have fixed it by just clicking on the delivery, going in and changing the date and time in the delivery. So this is a quick way to add a pickup and delivery, an additional pick. If I want to remove that, I just go click Remove Stop. And what's going to happen, it'll take that stop out and put the order back as a single pickup and drop. So it should have come back by now. Again, I apologize. Sometimes it slows my screen down when I'm working, when I'm doing demos. It looks like it didn't get rid of that stop yet. It hasn't removed the stop yet. Well, you know what? Let's leave the stop in because I wanted to show you that when I go to look at the bill of lading forms, the bill of lading will actually show two actual pickup and drops. The bill of lading will show a pickup at Piedmont going to the New York Hilton, and then there's going to be a pickup at Roanoke going to New York Hilton as well. So that's how the bill lading document will look. And we'll just leave that as this way for now. Now let's say that I've got to do a crosstalk. Let's say that the driver, I know a crosstalk is going to occur in advance. Most of the time when you do crosstalks where you have to put it on two different trucks, some truck's going to pick it up, another truck's going to deliver. It's usually after something has gone wrong in the trip, after the truck has been dispatched. But you can do something in advance. So if I look at my map, let's say that I'm going to crosstalk this in Asheville, North Carolina. I believe Asheville is in North Carolina. Charleston, West Virginia. I'm looking for something easy to spell. Parkersville, West Virginia. So I'll toggle the map out of the way, and what I'm going to do is create a crosstalk, and it says where's the first truck going to end up, and I'll say Parkersville. Oh, it's not a customer, it's a city. Parkersville, PA. We'll see what that does. And then it's going to give me ETAs, and I pick one of the dates and times, and it says I want to do a crosstalk of these two stops, and it's going to give me a little map to show me that I got to go way over here to do the crosstalk, and then I got to go to the second pickup and the final delivery. So it gives me a visual. I'm going to accept this anyways, just so I can show you how the crosstalk works. Complete the crosstalk. And this is something that you will note different from what my last product was with Selectus and this product. We don't create additional orders. It's the same order number. And what we do is we take the order and we break it into two pieces, and we call them moves. So the first move is to go to the pickup and take it to the crosstalk location. And then at the crosstalk location, a second truck is going to do the second move, picking up the original pickup at the crosstalk location, do another pickup, and go to the final consignee. And I can dispatch each of them separately or all of them at once by going to this dispatch. Likewise, I could post separately or post each of them separately out to the network if I want to post a load. So I'm just going to remove that crosstalk. Confirm remove. So now I've got the order back into the initial state with no crosstalk. And just to make this simple as well, I'm going to see about removing that stop. Move the stop. And now the stop. Now we're back to a single pickup and drop. So I'm ready to dispatch this. I know we're 45 minutes in. I don't have really, I don't want to take this to be more than an hour, so I'm not going to go back and redo this order quickly. But if I were doing this order in real time, I could probably get this order in 30 seconds. We've probably taken 20, 25 minutes to get this order in. I'm now going to dispatch this order because I want to quickly take you through the dispatch. Now, tomorrow we're going to do deep dive into dispatching. So I'm going to kind of rush through the dispatching at this point. And when you dispatch, I'm going to put it on my own truck. If I were looking at outside carriers, I'd just click carriers to look for outside carriers and dispatch to them. But I'm going to put it on my own truck. So I click on vehicles, and I'm going to put it on the truck that is my cell phone. So when you bring this up, something we added recently, by the way, is you can put your truck picture and your driver picture here. So I'm going to go ahead and dispatch my load to this particular truck. Now this truck and driver are using our Circle mobile. So the way this works, it says the location of the truck, the last we known was in East Gwillimbury, Ontario. I live about 30 miles north of Toronto, so that's where I am. And we're going to use the current date and time, and I need to know 57 minutes. If I don't get a check call within 57 minutes, I'm going to start warning dispatch that my check call is overdue. That's what the 57 minutes means. It says the start location is here in Ontario, and we got to pick up in Georgia. It's 971 miles to get there. It's going to take me 21 hours to get there, and there's going to be $27.50 worth of tolls. My loaded distance is that. It's going to take me that long to get there, so and $118 for the tolls. So there's my total distance, total travel time, total tolls. My ETA to my first stop is that. I'm supposed to be there on the 30th, so I'm actually going to be early, and that's using 47 miles an hour to calculate all of this stuff, and I can go 9 miles an hour and still make the pickup because the pickup's not until the 30th. I also have my hours of operation, so we interface with, in this case, I'm interfacing with Big Road. So I've got my driver set up with Big Road, and they've got roughly 11 hours left, but it's going to take 41 hours to do this, so they're going to be offside by about 31 hours. At the bottom, it says, do I want to send the driver the load offer by email and the dispatch instructions? And I'll say yes, so that email address came from the driver profile. And I want to offer the load to the driver on Circle Mobile. When I say yes, and 15 minutes, it gives the driver 15 minutes to push a button on the mobile app to say, I've got it, I'm on the load, I'm on my way. So I'll show you that momentarily. I'm going to click dispatch on this, and Before I do that, I'm going to bring up my phone onto the screen so you can kind of watch my phone, what happens when I click dispatch. Oh. And what will happen is it should send a message to my phone, which I haven't received yet. But it has put the order on my phone. There should have been a push notification come. I know why it didn't, because I had the app open. That's why. So what you'll see is when you dispatch it, our trip monitor for Full Circle, I'm going to use the same terminology as Selectus when I was there, got the truck number and a whole bunch of data about the pickup and deliveries. It has the word offered right beside the truck ID. And that tells me that I've offered that load to the truck, and until they push this button on the mobile app that says accept this manifest, that will stay as offered. If the driver doesn't do that, push that button in the next 12 minutes, that will change from offered to timed out in red. If the driver pushes the button, that will disappear. So this will have three settings: offered, timed out, or nothing. Nothing means I know they've pushed the button, so they've got the data. So as the driver, I'm going to go ahead and push this button, and I'm going to confirm that, yes, I've seen the order, and I'm on my way. Now, from the driver's point of view, they've got all their pickup and delivery. So if there were more than one, you notice I took one of the second pickup off this order, but had there been two pickups, it would have been there. If there's a little red number beside the pickup, that tells me that there's a note back there that I need to read. Likewise, on the delivery, there's a note back there. So if I drill into the pickup, I'll see the pickup name, address, city, state, zip. There's my scheduled time. I put a window time on here, so I got the earliest and latest shows up, plus I identified a contact and their phone number. And there's the map of the location where I'm going. And if I look down at the bottom, I'll see the bill lading, the pieces of weight, the DIMS, plus that special instruction: make sure the driver has PPE, especially goggles and face mask. So the driver has that information now, all the pickup and delivery information, and the driver's good to go. When I go back, and tomorrow I'm going to go do a deep dive into this dispatching grid. There's a ton of stuff. This is where people will live off this dispatching grid. Below the dispatch grid is all the unattended orders that are not yet dispatched. So I can use a gear function here to do things like dispatch the order, add it to an existing order, a whole bunch of functionality. This truck is now en route. It's currently in north of Toronto. It's scheduled to be there on the 30th at 6 a.m. The ETA is the 26th at 12:23, and I'm 979 miles away. It's going to take me 1,239 minutes to get there. I'm not late, 0 minutes late. I'm using 47 miles an hour to calculate that ETA, and if I go 9 miles an hour, I'll still make it. Now, if I go back just real quick, I'm going to wrap this up in about a few minutes. I can do the arrive event. So if I go back to the option here to do the arrive, I click the arrive option at the top. And it says, by the way, you don't seem to be at your location. You tend to be, look like you're 755 miles away from the defined stop location. So it looks at where the driver is and where they're supposed to be. I'm going to confirm this anyways, but that's a warning to the driver that they might be at the wrong spot. So when I confirm that, I now just received a text message as a customer. So I set this phone up to get a text message as well as a customer. So that text message has come to me. I've also received I should receive shortly, there it is, the email as a customer. So here's the email I received as a customer. It would have your logo there, and it would talk about the pickup and delivery and all the order details. And I can drill into that and see, track, and trace for this one order only. So your customer has been notified, your driver's done the event, and your customer has been notified about that. Your driver can also upload paperwork by clicking on this icon. So for those of you who were on my webinar on Monday, I went through a lot of this in detail. I'll do more details of this tomorrow when I do the webinar on dispatching. I wanted to go through the order entry and customer side of things more today. So I'm not going to do any more about that. Before I go away from this, I did want to show you that we have an interface with Big Road. So as soon as I find my Big Road icon, I know it's here somewhere. There's Big Road. So Big Road is an ETA application, so it keeps track of my on-duty and off-duty and driving status. So we interface with Big Road and it's brought into the system. For example, in this particular grid, I don't have the hours of service option on the grid, so I go to Hide Show Data, and I add the hours of service onto the grid. And now the hours of service is somewhere, oh, there it is, right here. So it put it right there, and I may want to move that over next to my driver so I can see the hours of service. And I can see that the driver's got 10 hours and 59 minutes left in his day before he has to go down for sleep. And as that counts down, it'll start turning color as it gets close to 0. I'm going to talk more about this tomorrow when I do the deep dive into dispatch. From the operations point of view, I wanted to talk today about setting up your customer, creating a new customer, an existing customer, all the things you want to save, name, address, city, state, zip, the hours of operation, the special instructions, the contacts, how they want to be notified. Have all that information in your customer database. Whether they're a bill to or just a location, you want to have as much information in the customer database as possible. Then when you create an order and do a quick order, and you go Piedmont as your customer, and I'll do a quick order, my reference number, add the stops, and then I do my pickup as Piedmont, and my pickup is tomorrow at 1800, X-Bike 1800. I got my pickup and delivery. I'm going to New York Hilton. It's going to give me automatic ETAs once it calculates all the information. I save that. I up it by about 45 minutes, and I put my pieces and weight in. And there, it's all optional as well. I have my notes already in the system. Save that. And I again apologize because my system goes a little slow when I'm sharing my screen. And I put in my rate. So let's say it's $2 a mile. Save that. At this point, I could have emailed the rate confirmation of the customer. And then I may want to add any order attributes, liftgate, team service, etc. Save that. And I may want to send my customer a rate confirmation. And then once I'm done that, I go ahead and dispatch it. So you can see you can create an order fairly quickly if you have a customer on the phone, or if you're taking it from an email or from any other document that arrives on your desk about an order. So tomorrow I will be doing a webinar on the dispatching side of things and deep dive into dispatching. Chances are that's going to go more than an hour because there is so much in the dispatch side. I may touch a bit more on the order side too, and some of the gear options available to you. For example, copying existing orders, emailing stuff, etc. So I'm now going to open this up for unmuting it. Now there's 26 participants on this right now. So I've now unmuted everybody. If there's background noise, we will hear background noise. Are there any questions? So there are some people out there that have their computer not muted. If you can mute your computer, please, or mute your phone if you're not going to be asking a question. Does anybody have any questions?